Welcome back to Make Up Life. My name is Amber and today we'll be in the kitchen. We'll be cooking up a fond childhood memory, which is going to be my mom's Crustless Quiche. This is something they would have for special breakfasts, special occasions, Easter, that sort of thing. Looking back on this recipe, because I was deciding I was craving quiche, it's actually rather simple, which is a relief. So, let's get into it. The very first thing we need to do is preheat the oven to 350 degrees and then stick our 8x8 pan in there with our butter. The original recipe calls for 1/4 of a cup of butter, but I have a note on here that the last time I made it I wanted less butter because I remember as a child loving the brown crispy edges and all the, it was swimming in butter. But the last time I had it, it was too much butter for me. So I'm cutting the butter in half, believe it or not. That is half the butter that I was asking for. I'm going to stick it in the hot oven and let the butter melt in the bottom of the pan. Next, it's simply incorporating all of the ingredients, combining all the ingredients in a bowl. There's not that many ingredients. First, I think I'm going to do my eggs. So it calls for 5 eggs. So crack it in. But comment below about family recipes that you have fond memories of growing up that you'd make on a special occasion. And like I know for my sister, she has a tradition of making cinnamon rolls for Christmas breakfast. Like I said, my mom did this crustless quiche. Now that I live in Texas, I have a different name for it, but she would make a special cheese dip for... I only very rarely remember her making it, but I'm sure it was for parties. And she'd get out it's almost like a crock pot that you'd put on the stove or put in the oven. It's a Corningware-ish. And she would put it on a warmer on the counter in the kitchen. And she'd put Velveeta and other things in it. So now that I know, growing up, it's called queso. She'd make a big pot of queso. But I have a very few memories of her making it, but of course when she made it, it was very yummy. So that was a special occasion thing for us. Another thing was sometimes when it got cold and we might be having like a Bible study over at our house or something, she would put together a carafe, like a thing that was like that big, full of apple cider. So the whole house would smell like apples and cinnamon. And when it was cold outside, you can come in and just pour yourself a cup of apple cider. That was a special memory. And of course, another Easter food would be deviled eggs, because you boil them, you find them, then you make deviled eggs out of them. So in here there's 5 eggs, and this is 1/4 of a cup of flour and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. So this makes me nervous putting the flour directly in there, but I don't know of any other way to do this. So just gonna mix it in. So I think there's some argument about whether or not this is called a quiche because it has no crust. Maybe it might be called a frittata. I don't know, but this is what my mom called it, is crustless quiche. And looking at it from today's terms, it's definitely low carb. I guess back then it might be considered Atkins, because really the only carbs in here come from the flour I just added and whatever mix-ins you do. Because she has a couple options in this recipe. Then you can do it as a ham and cheese variety, so you add ham to it, so the ham might have a little bit of sugar with it. I'm doing the Mexican variety where you add a small can of diced chilies in there, and then you're supposed to serve it with salsa. So I got my flour and baking soda in there, baking powder, not soda. And then 1 cup of cottage cheese. In an attempt to help the calories on this, I am using low fat cottage cheese with this. The recipe does not specify. So I guess this is a little bit of a lighter version of this because I'm doing the lower cottage cheese and lesser butter. So then I'm going to add my green chilies. And these are chopped green chilies, mild. I did have a note on here that it might be nice to try medium. So evidently last time I tried it, it wasn't very, needed more flavor. But I'm just going to go with this. And last but not least, 8 ounces of cheese shredded, which comes out to get 2 cups shredded cheese. And this is a wide mix. I had little bits of it, a bunch of cheeses in my refrigerator, so I just combined them all together. So there's some sharp cheddar, there's some Fiesta mix, there's an Italian mix, so a wide variety. I'm sure if I wanted to try to lighten this recipe up even more, I could even like go for a lower fat cheeses, but I think this will be fine. Now we're going to pour it into our pan, which the butter should be melted by now, and it is. So melt the butter. It's been a while since I made this recipe, so it has fond memories. And in reality, I usually have all of these ingredients in my kitchen other than the cottage cheese. That was the one thing I had to go out and get in order to make this today. But everything else I usually have standard in my kitchen. Just going to put this back in the oven. And set a timer for 35 minutes. 35 minutes.
35 minutes. Counting down.
And the recipe says 35 minutes or until edges are crusty and golden and the eggs are set. So that is what we're looking for. And it really is as simple as that. And it's absolutely delicious. And once this gets done cooking, I'll come back with some nutritional breakdown for it as I've made it today. Like I said, there's variations you can do. You can put all sorts of things in here. Just like with any other quiche or frittata, I'm sure you can put like asparagus would be lovely. Maybe a little bit of cooked potato if you wanted to bring up the carbs in it. But my main memory is the green chili version. I don't really remember her making it any other way. But like I said, with every other frittata and quiche, you can always put all sorts of add-ins into it to make it custom to you. So I will see you back when the quiche is coming out of the oven. The timer has gone off, so let's look at the quiche. It looks a little bit jiggly in the center, so I'm going to go ahead and give it another 5 minutes. Timer's gone off again, so let's check it. Smells lovely, and it's less jiggly, so there's a big pool of butter right there. So, yay! This may look weird, but this is me trying to figure out nutrition on this. And we're at 1931. And I'll be back with nutrition. Okay, so in summary, the entire recipe is 1,646 calories with 105 fat, 49 carbs, and 124 protein. So if you go according to the recipe instructions and make it into 4 servings, that means each serving is 410 calories, 26 fat, 12 carbs, and 31 protein. So pretty, I don't know, it's substantial breakfast.
Decent breakfast.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll be filling, and it's not like crazy over the top where, of course, like I said, this is taking into account the modifications I did, which is mainly cutting down on the butter. But I am looking forward to having this the next couple mornings. And I'm really confused because growing up, and maybe my siblings can comment, I remember this quiche serving our entire family, not just 4 of us, because there's more than 4 of us in the family. And I remember getting more servings out of this. Maybe she doubled the recipe and made a whole pan rather than an 8x8. I just remember going further than that. But I am looking forward to having this in the coming days. And like I said, I'd love to hear below your stories of comforting foods, foods with memories, memorable foods from your childhood, or not even from your childhood, just things that you can go back and repeat and enjoy eating because of the fond memories and the lovely taste. So, until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day. Feel free to like and subscribe. Bye!